You can see how far away we are from the building you see burning behind me. We can actually feel the heat from those flames coming out of the second-story window. This very intersection is where Athena's 5-year-old sister told a postal worker that something just wasn't right. Now, they're handing out these posters here in Cyril. Huge law enforcement presence. We have ambulances on standby, and I'm now seeing the Oklahoma City Air One helicopter. This spot is about 2 miles from Dale's front porch, and you can see right here, the oil made it into a creek and ran all the way through this pasture. We know the shooter was able to make it to the second floor of this medical facility building here behind me, and that's where he was found dead. Flowers and small objects didn't even move, while headstones were completely knocked over. In fact, I'm told about 80 different grave sites had to be fixed. Here on the south side of Lake Overholser, police say this looks like street racing, and the driver rolled a vehicle right here off of Overholser Road.
Right there, that was the front door to the house. Right over here is the kitchen window, where the soffit was burning.
When a house burns, it's hard to look away, even when things inside are destroyed and memories are all that's left. Todd walked us through the rubble after his own home burned down Friday.
I thought it had all passed north of us.
Sky 5 was overhead and our crews were on the ground as the 2,100 square foot house was consumed. He says his adult son came over and begged him to pack up and leave hours before ignition.
Spent a little over 3 hours trying to talk us into evacuating, but we didn't.
And he and his wife stayed as long as they could until he realized he had no choice.
I came inside, turned on the news to track the wildfire, heard it crackling over my head.
He's doing the best he can for now, living with family and a camper right next to the burned down home. Todd has seen this situation before, many times. He just never thought he'd be on this side of it. He's a firefighter with the Edmond Fire Department.
I knew it was going to be bad for a lot of people, but you never expect it to hit you.
Veronica didn't know a stranger. She could talk to you and you would be friends, the same instant.
Saying that Veronica Butler was friendly would be an understatement. Her aunt, LaDonna Thompson, lives in Moore and has many memories of her niece that bring a smile to her face.
She's the one that would make the smart aleck remarks and sassy and spunky. That was Veronica.
But there was something at the center of Veronica's life that always took center stage.
Her kids were her world. Her kids were her life. Everything she did was for her kids. Well, she'd get in a pool with them. She'd blow bubbles with them. She'd, whatever it was, she was there with them.
And her kids were a big part of how she got to know Jillian Kelly, a pastor's wife from Hugoton, Kansas, that was a court-appointed advocate. She agreed to make the trip with Veronica from Hugoton down to Texas County in the Oklahoma Panhandle to pick up Veronica's kids from their grandmother.
Jillian was just along for the ride when they were headed to pick up the children for a birthday party.
It should have been a simple trip. It should have been routine. But after Easter weekend this year, the state, the country, and then the world started to hear Veronica and Jillian's names.
How do you put into words something that has gone across the world, to remote parts of the world? People are talking about it.
An unfathomable situation, now taking precedent for an innocent family, as the news of 2 moms vanishing in the Panhandle spread.
I was optimistic. I remember just praying, okay, God, she's got to be out here somewhere. I just remember staying optimistic for those 2 weeks until we had been told that she had been found and they were no longer with us.
Through numerous court hearings, phone calls to her brother, and countless difficult days on the road to justice, there's a constant: a niece, a mother, a sister, a mom, loved by so many, doesn't just fade away.
She's loved, and she will never be forgotten. And that's just what we say. She's very loved and never forgotten.
Will you have Rebecca to be your wedded wife?
It's not a grand venue. It's not a church. But for this wedding, that doesn't matter. George told me it's simply time to tie the knot with his new wife, Rebecca. She goes by Becky.
We ask God to bless you this day in that marriage.
Age is just a number for these two. She's 69 years young, and he's 72.
One thing led to another, and then 19 years later, we're here. I'm going to get married.
19 years of dating. Neither of them were looking for anything serious when they met. But now, George says there's no other woman he'd rather call his own.
She has a way of just pointing her finger and going, shh. And it could make a football player just fall down.
As George showed me the pictures, these two are some of his favorites.
They had a Hawaiian luau dance, and we just thought it'd be cool to go. And so we went to the Hawaiian luau, and that's what we looked like.
He helped me get to know Becky a little bit. These are some of his favorite pictures. They take him back to a special time in their lives, when they first met. And it's obvious he loves her.
And that's the woman that I fell in love with, and regardless of what she looks like now, it doesn't matter.
George and Becky have spent tons of time together, but now time is of the essence. There's a reason this wedding happened today. In fact, it wasn't originally planned this way at all. They moved up their wedding date by 2 days.
I realized that she's almost to the end. And I try to be as strong as I can for her, although it's not easy. I'll tell you what, if I wish I could have took that cancer away, I'd have took it myself.
Becky has battled colorectal cancer for the last 3 years. This week, news from the doctor no one wants to hear. She's only expected to live a few more days.
I've been her caregiver and her friend and her lover, and I will continue to be all of those things until she passes.
It's a race against the clock for Becky's daughter, Erin, whose father just passed away a few days ago. We're told she was able to get a flight back to Oklahoma to see her mom.
George Kelly and Mrs. Rebecca Mason Kelly.
But at their wedding, George and Becky are just glad they were given enough time to make this all happen, even though they both have to stay strong.
It's something that I need to do, and I try to stay as strong and positive as I can.
There is a GoFundMe set up for the family, and we'll have that link available on our website, KOCO.com, in Oklahoma City.
May God bless these rings.
I thought the Devon Tower looked really cool, and it looked like it'd be a nice climb to, a nice building to climb.
The first time you saw Mason in OKC, he was here on the side of the Devon Tower earlier this morning. The only gear he had on him, rock climbing shoes and chalk for his hands, and the alias, Pro-Life Spider-Man.
So like after 30 feet, the consequence is the same, so it just all goes away, really.
He talked with us after he was released from jail this evening. The 23-year-old, originally from Michigan, told us he scouted the Devon Tower on Google Maps to see if he could climb it.
I just look to see if I can stick my hands around. I look for where the light passes through the holds, and that means I can get my hands around it.
So of course, there's the question, why did he do it?
It was to protest abortion.
And specifically to raise money for a pro-life organization. I asked him point blank if he knew Oklahoma just passed some of the country's strictest abortion laws. This was his answer.
A lot of Oklahomans oppose abortion and want to see women get help.
So why climb a skyscraper instead of doing something else?
Well, because it gets people's attention, you know, and it's like I said, like using God's gift to help others.
He says OKC wasn't the first climb.
San Francisco, New York, Detroit, Las Vegas, yeah.
After days on the loose, these two jailbirds are back in custody, and their owner tells us it was a neighborhood effort to track them down.
Literally since last Wednesday, we have been searching the neighborhood. I'm losing sleep.
It's a story only comparable to the notorious Bonnie and Clyde. Molly tells us her two peacocks have been on the run for 6 days after their coop was left open.
We woke up Wednesday and they were gone.
Named purely on their looks, Pretty Boy and Pretty Girl, the peacocks ruffled their owner's feathers when they busted out and explored the neighborhood off Nowassa Drive in Midwest City. They were seen walking on rooftops and even inviting themselves over for backyard barbecues.
We had a guy a couple houses down. He was like crawling across his roof the other day, yesterday actually, with a pool net trying to catch him.
In fact, I even tried to help by playing peacock calls on my phone to get them closer. Molly says her own neighbors made these signs to get the feathered felons back in custody. After all, the kids at her at-home daycare service loved them. But then, Molly got a call from a next-door neighbor.
Okay.
Got him? Pretty Boy headed back to the coop.
I thought some people would have a problem with it, having a peacock roaming around in their garage, in their pools, everywhere.
But Molly says that's the furthest thing from the truth. The neighbors loved seeing the magnificent birds strutting on their rooftops and backyards. And in a way, the birds brought a whole flock together.
Roaming around, like knocking on people's doors, leaving signs like, hey, have you seen my peacock? Has been really, really weird for me.